Our news is brought to you by Alive.
Good evening, Bahamas. Coming up tonight, attorneys on both sides of the oil drilling court hearing butt heads. Have you been naughty or nice this holiday season? Why the health minister says that will determine COVID restrictions in the next few weeks. Why Bahamas Air is increasing domestic fares, plus thousands apply for travel visas. Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. I'm Christina Dragovich. Topping news tonight, a brief but heated day in court this morning as attorneys on both sides of the exploratory oil drilling hearing agreed to adjourn the matter until tomorrow. While Fred Smith QC called for the adjournment because of his health, the legal team representing Bahamas Petroleum Company questioned whether he had an ulterior motive. Kyle Joaquin reports.
It was supposed to be a full hearing for both sides. However, after the attorney representing the environmental groups requested an adjournment, in came a quick back and forth between he and the attorney representing BPC. Exploratory oil drilling continues in Bahamian waters as attorneys agreed to adjourn the hearing on whether Bahamas Petroleum Company should be allowed to proceed with its drilling. Supreme Court Justice Petra Hannah Adderley was set to hear both sides today. However, Queen's Counsel Fred Smith, who represents the environmental groups Waterkeeper Bahamas Limited and Coalition to Protect Clifton Bay, asked the court for a day or two as he was not feeling well, a result of an accident he had last year. He said, "When I don't get sleep and under a lot of stress, I am in a lot of distracting pain." Smith added, "In the interest of having a smooth hearing and with all of my colleagues having the opportunity to consider all of the papers and me being in a better condition to represent my clients, I ask that this matter be adjourned so that all of those applications can be heard." While the government's attorneys had no objection to this, BPC's lead attorney Claire Montgomery QC questioned whether Smith wasn't trying to trick the system. She said while they have sympathy for Smith, they are concerned that it could be an opportunity for Smith to file for other papers. Montgomery said, "If your ladyship would say that a line must be drawn now and no further documents served, then we're content with it to go over till tomorrow." Smith, taking grave issue with that statement, hit back saying, "Miss Montgomery, this isn't a trick that I'm attempting to pull off so that I can have more time to file more documents." He added, "I am not trying to take advantage of this, and I would object to Miss Montgomery's attempt to draw a line." Smith went on, throwing a jab, saying he will not be straitjacketed by Montgomery, adding, "This is one of the reasons we shouldn't have BPC participating in this action the way they are so far, as if they're a party." Smith has made a motion to amend the application for leave and said his team has no objection to BPC being heard on the stay application the same time leave is heard. Smith is now seeking to add the Town Planning Authority as a party in the matter. BPC and its subsidiary Bahamas Offshore Petroleum Limited are not parties to the application. The applicants are seeking leave to bring judicial review proceedings against the government's decision to authorize the drilling of Perseverance No. 1 well near the Keysell Bank in the southwestern waters of the Bahamas. They submit that the decision to approve the authorization for drilling was procedurally unfair, irrational, an abuse of power, and therefore unlawful. Again, in the meantime, drilling continues 90 miles west off the coast of Andros. For Our News, I'm Kyle Joaquin.
Thanks, Kyle. Meanwhile, Minister of Health Wentworth Wells says the government will know in roughly 2 weeks whether more COVID-19 restriction measures are necessary. Wells says that will be heavily dependent on whether Bahamians have been naughty or nice during the holidays. Wells telling reporters there are no plans to close our borders despite a new strain of COVID-19 emerging in North America. Jasmine Brown has that.
So we'd be looking maybe in the second week in January. As to how, whether as a people and are just staying in the Christmas season, whether we've been naughty or nice.
That's Minister of Health Wentworth Wells responding to the possibility that the Bahamas could see a spike in COVID-19 cases in the weeks following the holiday season. He said based on the current COVID-19 numbers, the minister's administration is not looking at implementing restrictions, at least not for now. Wells also insisted there are no plans to use lockdown measures unless there is an uncontrolled spread of COVID and high positivity rates. As for the possibility of the country's borders being closed due to a new strain of COVID-19 being confirmed in Canada, he said the government has no plans to shut them down again.
We're not seeking to close our borders again as a country. The Prime Minister had spoken that we're in a phase where we're seeking to keep the economy open, keep the Bahamian people working, and doing what we need to as a Ministry of Health, as a government, as a competent authority, to be able to ensure that all of the issues, all of the protocols that we have in place continue to address the issue of health for the Bahamian people in a way that allows us the freedoms that we currently have.
As numbers of confirmed COVID cases decreased in recent weeks, Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis announced the relaxation of a number of measures ahead of the holidays. Notably, the emergency order allows social gatherings with up to 10 people on New Providence, which has been the hardest hit by the coronavirus, between December 23rd and January 3rd. Wells urged Bahamians to be responsible.
I don't want to jinx our situation in country. I know that's not a real word, but I don't want to, I'm hoping that we do not enter a third wave. So far, the numbers have been very good in regards to COVID. Our numbers are below 10.
Now, with another holiday weekend approaching, Wells says the Bahamas is not out of the woods yet, as he cautioned Bahamians to be extra careful this New Year's holiday. Reporting for our News, I'm Jasmine Brown.
Well, hotels are swiftly adjusting to the new amendment to emergency orders regarding indoor dining for patrons who are not hotel guests. They tell our Jillian Gray it's been a roller coaster ride.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Perfect.
That was the scene at Latitude's restaurant located at the Nassau Harbor Club. Greg Miners is one of many guests who's had to take a COVID-19 rapid antigen test to dine. Miners, who is staying over Paradise Island, had just taken his 5-day test but did not bring the results with him. He said he was happy to take it again, though.
Things have been a little bit slow and complicated, but you expect that with the virus, but so far, everything's made it just fine.
Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis abruptly changed the emergency powers orders on Monday to allow indoor dining with a negative rapid antigen test or no test at all for outdoor dining. Latitudes sprang into action, according to marketing manager Derica Munnings, who described the last 4 days as a roller coaster ride.
It's been a bit of a roller coaster because then it gone from us being able to accommodate people indoors to having to come up with a solution to still be able to serve guests, not have to send staff home, and stay safe. So what we did was we reached out to Family Medicine Center, got the proper training that was needed, got the forms, and did what needed to be done.
When the first amendment was signed on Christmas Day requiring an RT-PCR test for indoor dining for restaurant patrons not staying at a hotel, the opposition leader lamented the move, calling it a gift of bad news. When we visited Latitudes, about 80 people had passed through thus far, and half of that number required a test.
We take your information, we seat you in the lounge, and then once the team is ready, we bring you in. You wait 15 to 20 minutes for your results. If it's negative, you are allowed to go back to the hostess to be seated.
Over at Breezes, they're breathing a sigh of relief as the new amendment has brought back their weekend brunch. The service was stopped a few months ago after the emergency order was adjusted.
We're relaunching the brunch again because the emergency orders have now allowed us to have persons in this restaurant without having the COVID test. The fact that you can actually walk into the restaurant without having to go into the hotel bode well for us.
Sales manager Hita Smith said their brunch was popular and the nearly 100 seats were filled most weekends. With less than half their staff engaged, Smith said they're looking forward to the new stream of revenue that brunch will bring back to the hotel.
It allows us to bring back some of those persons that were furloughed. I mean, we've got chefs to bring back. We have waiters, busboys, servers.
Though business has been at a near standstill for the last several months, Smith said she's hoping that by summer 2021, business starts to pick up again. And opening the restaurant this weekend for brunch is just one way they're getting back to normal. Reporting for our News, I'm Jillian Gray.
And Bahamas Air is projected to lose more than $50 million this year, according to Minister of Tourism and Aviation Dionisio de Aguilar, who was responding to public criticism of the airline's recently announced increase in ticket prices. De Aguilar says the change is unfortunate but necessary given the financial difficulties faced by Bahamas Air.
At the beginning of the year, the financial year, Bahamas Air was projected to require $19 million in subvention from central government. As COVID-19 and the effects of this pandemic have unfurled and Bahamas Air has been grounded, yet still paying all of its expenses, payroll, debt service, leases and rents, the estimated losses for Bahamas Air are going to mushroom to well in excess of $50 million.
Bahamas Air announced beginning January 4th it will increase domestic fares and is implementing for the first time a fee for the first checked luggage on international flights. The baggage policy for domestic travel has not changed. While he calls the hike in domestic fares painful and something they did not want to do, D'Aguilar says the airline's losses are so substantial they require intervention.
It's unfortunate, but I think, and hopefully the Bahamian people will understand the losses of Bahamas Air and the fact that the government has made it a policy to not furlough anybody, not sell off any aircraft, as other airlines around the world have done, and to remain and to keep the cost structure as is, to safeguard and protect Bahamian jobs, that it does come with a little price.
It's a cool evening outside the R News studios tonight. Here's Greg Thompson in the weather studio.
Thanks, Christina. In our first look at weather tonight, brought to you by InfoGrow, we take a look at conditions outside our studios. Breezy conditions, very cool. Temperatures are in the low 70s. We have 71 degrees outside our studios. The winds out of the northeast at 12 knots with some higher gusts. Feels like temperature around 71 degrees Fahrenheit. Satellite view, robust high pressure out there in the open Atlantic, generating some northeasterly flow. That's bringing some clouds across us with some scattered showers. Those conditions will persist tonight through tomorrow. That's your first look at weather. Your extended forecast is still to come.
Still to come on our news, thousands applied for travel visas, and 7 years after her son was killed on Fox Hill Park, a mother is still grieving. That's coming up when our news returns.
We share our stories because there is power in every story. There is hope in every story.
There is healing in every story.
Our stories will inspire you.
They will change you.
They will empower you.
Because there is freedom in every story.
Join me, Erlene Camille, and my guest every Sunday at 5:30 p.m. and Wednesdays at 6:30 p.m. for powerful, revealing, life-changing stories. Journey TV. We share life's truths.
Visitor arrivals for this holiday season may not compare to travel numbers for 2019, but Tourism Minister Dionisio D'Aguilar says they are encouraged by the surge in demand for travel visas this week. Berthany McDermott has that.
Tourism Minister Dionisio D'Aguilar revealing that thousands of people have applied for travel visas in recent days. He says while the numbers are nowhere near visitor arrivals recorded last year, there has been an uptick in recent days.
We had thousands and thousands of people applying for, especially arrival on the 27th and the 28th. Now, how that compares in total, obviously we'll be way down on 2019, but we were encouraged, first of all, that we had a system in place that was correctly vetting people, that we had the ability to process the surge in demand, and that everybody who wanted to travel on a particular day was either being approved or denied or being processed before that date of travel. And we'll see where the numbers settle at the end of the month to see, how our numbers compare.
This American visitor who we met downtown says the 7-day window for visitors to acquire a negative COVID-19 RT-PCR test isn't enough.
The 5-day period I feel is a little short because sometimes the test results don't come back in 5 to 7 days. So that was a little bit of a time constraint, but we made it through.
Emergency powers regulations mandate that everyone traveling to the Bahamas between December 23rd and January 4th obtain a negative COVID-19 RT-PCR test taken no more than 7 days prior to their date of arrival. However, Our News understands that in some U.S. states, a backlog prevents some travelers from getting their COVID test results in time. After taking the necessary steps to travel to the Bahamas, some tourists have found the lack of activity a bit difficult, but not these guests.
That's been challenging. I wanted to go to the straw market, that's why we're out today, but it's closed, but we'll make do, and it's fun.
I feel like there's a lot of shops that are closed that we're walking by. We have to go a little bit further, but I mean, I'm sure that's everywhere.
I think we have a high degree of understanding just because it's what we're experiencing at home. At home, there's no restaurants and businesses aren't open at all. So it's been kind of refreshing to see some things that are open.
We also asked their views on the 10 p.m. curfew.
The curfew wasn't a problem. We got little ones, so we're not really trying to go out past 10 p.m., right?
We just have to remember to eat dinner earlier than we usually do.
Not really. It's our first time here and first time traveling, COVID, and we're staying at a resort, so it's been kind of, low-key.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Berthany McDermott.
Well, the mother of a 19-year-old man who was gunned down during the 2013 Fox Hill massacre is still mourning the loss of her son. 7 years later, Christmas isn't the same for the grieving family. Jared Higgs reports.
Whenever the Christmas holiday comes around, my heart is filled with so much sadness.
43-year-old Sonia Kemp says even though her son, 19-year-old Shaquille Demerit, died 7 years ago, it feels like yesterday. She says it was a big loss for her family.
The pain is still there.
On December 27, 2013, Demerit and 3 others were shot dead on Freedom Park in Fox Hill. The event would become known as the Fox Hill Massacre. The other victims that night were 30-year-old Shanique Sands, 37-year-old Claudino Davis, and 49-year-old Eric Morrison. 7 other people were injured. Kemp recalls the horror of hearing the shots ring out. She says her son was walking to the shop for food. When she learned that he was shot in the head, she ran her fastest to the park. When she got there, she found him bleeding out.
He said, "Mom, I can't breathe." And I just held him and I told him how much I love him.
The grieving mother described her son as a kind, quiet, and mannerly young man. She says he was a talented basketball player with multiple scholarship offers. He also had a little brother who looked up to him and an older sister who cared about him deeply. Christmas was his favorite time of year, but Kemp hasn't been able to enjoy it.
I put up a tree. The gifts are still under the tree. I haven't opened any gifts. But the pain is still there. I tried to have a Christmas dinner. I just had to leave and go upstairs and I just cried.
Coming to Freedom Park, where she found her dying son, is difficult for Kemp, but now she works right across the street.
I have found comfort in being there. Everybody in Foxville, they show me genuine love.
4 men were charged in the deaths of Demerit, Sands, Davis, and Morrison. Their trial has been put off until March due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Kemp says since her son's death, her family has traveled during the Christmas to try and take their mind off the events of yesteryear. She also wrote a book about losing her son. This year, COVID prevented the family from traveling, and sadly, being home in Fox Hill has provoked sad memories.
This was like the worst Christmas. I think I cried every single day. Every single day I cried. When I come down here and look at my son's picture, I just cry. I just cry.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Jared Higgs.
And police are investigating the death of a man whose body was found in a home on Victoria Avenue. Officers received reports that a man had been found unresponsive with a cord around his neck shortly after 11 last night. Once on the scene, police officers say they were directed to a stairwell where they found the body. Emergency medical services personnel were called and pronounced the man dead. Police are awaiting an autopsy report to determine the exact cause of death. When Our News comes back from the break, the National Security Minister sheds light on recent clemency grants, plus a Grand Bahama man charged with stealing from his employer. The details when Our News returns.
This year has been hard on all of us. Many have lost friends and loved ones to COVID-19, which has changed the world and the way we live. From the first case to the second wave, Our News has been there with you, and we will continue to stand with you this holiday season,
sharing in your stories of tragedy and triumph. Christmas may look and feel very different this year, but its meaning of love and hope remains the same. From our family to yours, Merry Christmas and a safe and prosperous New Year.
This is Our News. Welcome back. National Security Minister Marvin Dames revealing the nature of the crimes committed by some of the persons who were recently granted clemency.
It's across the board. I don't have the, it's across the board. We consider everything, okay? I know that there are a few manslaughter cases that would have been considered, break-ins, frauds, across the board.
Last week, the Ministry of National Security said the Advisory Committee on the Prerogative of Mercy granted 147 requests for clemency and 1 request for the expungement of a criminal record. The committee reviewed 205 requests for clemency and 2 for expungement of records. In addition to 147 being approved for clemency, 6 are still pending additional reports and 59 were deferred to the next meeting in January 2021.
Everyone is entitled to an audience. So everyone. There's no specific. Everyone is entitled as long as you can prove. Again, I mean, it's just not a blanket. You're given clemency. Okay, so again, these clemency requests comes with supporting documents from the prison. You get psychiatric reports, you get social services reports, you get reports from the police, and then we'll connect with the victims as well. We want to do this right.
And a Grand Bahama man charged today with stealing from his place of employment. 39-year-old Prince Jennings of South Bahamia was arraigned before Deputy Chief Magistrate Debbie Ferguson, charged with stealing by reason of employment, acquisition of proceeds of criminal conduct, and making a false report. According to police, Jennings told officers in 8 Mile Rock that he was held up at gunpoint by unknown men and robbed of cash belonging to his place of employment. However, after further investigation, police say Jennings was arrested and the money recovered. He pleaded not guilty to all charges and was granted $700 bail on counts 1 and 2 and $500 bail on count 3. The matter was adjourned to February 10th. Meanwhile, a handful of COVID-19 vaccines have been rolled out across the world as populations work to get the virus under control. As the Bahamas watches other countries deal with the struggles and vaccine hesitancy, a health professional is reminding Bahamians that the COVID-19 vaccine, like many others, is optional.
Vaccines, they're not mandatory. It's up to person's personal choice. And so I would just advise to read and get familiar with the facts around these vaccines. And when it is available, it will be very, very helpful for our country and the world to increase immunity.
The vaccines that have been approved for use are very effective, according to Dr. Nakia Forbes. That, she says, is based on studies and trials so far, which are required to follow protocols for approval. But she notes that it is important for each individual to do their own research before making a decision.
What is the benefit of these vaccines? It was very, very effective in preventing people from getting SARS-CoV-2, which is the virus that caused COVID-19, and persons from getting COVID-19 and certainly dying from COVID-19. And we know people of all ages can die of COVID-19 just by breathing in the viral particles.
There's more news on the way, but first, here's your RF Market Watch.
It's now time for tonight's Financial Market Minute, brought to you by RF, your local investment bank. This has been your Financial Market Minute. To explore the best performing mutual funds in the Bahamas, visit our website at www.rfgroup.com.
Still to come on our news, more breezy conditions may be ahead, and the granddaughter of a famous ocean explorer pleads with Bahamians. We'll tell you why when our news returns.
Just when you thought the year would end drought, Rev came through with Magic and Holiday Chill. Our cashback will double, making more spirits rise, with chances to spin and with a dope random prize. The rules are quite simple. You can find them online. Just sign up for Trio and pay your Rev bill on time. Our grocery store dash is sure to bring smiles as 16 lucky winners tear through the aisles. Call 601-8992 or visit rev.bs/promotions to find out how you can win with Rev's Field of Magic giveaway. Rev, you and us, together.
Welcome back to our news. We saw rain and breezy conditions in the capital today. Greg is back in the weather studio to tell us what we can expect over the next few days.
Thanks again, Christina. Our second look of weather tonight. Take a look at satellite picture around the area. Large high-pressure system across the southeastern United States and into the Atlantic, generating some very strong winds across us. Those winds will continue to create some hazardous beaching and boating conditions over the next several days up until the end of the week before we do see another cold front getting in here by Sunday. Your boating forecast for all areas tonight through tomorrow. Your winds will be out of the northeast to east, 15 to 25 knots. So we have an advisory posted for you boaters. Sea is very rough, 5 to 8 feet out there. We're asking you beachgoers to exercise caution. Your high tide will be at 7:20 tonight. Here's a look now at your national forecast. A look now at your extended forecast through Sunday. That's a look at our weather. Have a safe night, everyone. Christina?
Thanks, Greg. Well, the granddaughter of famous ocean explorer Jacques Cousteau is sending a warning to Bahamians on the dangers of oil drilling in the Bahamas. Alexandra Cousteau is an explorer and ocean advocate who advises Oceana, an international advocacy organization. In an opinion piece published on CNN.com, Cousteau pleads with the Bahamian government to reconsider what she calls a bad joke, offshore oil drilling in the Bahamas. Cousteau writes, "It sounds so absurd because it is. The government of a country whose name is synonymous for paradise that has given an oil company the green light to drill in its pristine waters." Cousteau was referring to Bahamas Petroleum Company, which last week began drilling an exploratory well in the Bahamas. She notes that while the U.S. government has suspended drilling activities in waters from North Carolina to Florida for the next 10 years, all of that work could be for nothing because of this reckless move to allow drilling in Bahamian waters. Tourism and oil, even the perception of oil, she writes, do not mix. After the BP disaster, hotels as far south as Tampa saw cancellations and depressed bookings, even in areas where no oil reached their shores. Cousteau finishes noting that many Bahamians share the same love of the ocean that she learned from her grandfather, and she hopes Prime Minister Hubert Minnis shares that love as well. Now, she writes, many Bahamians and Americans are waiting anxiously for him to do the right thing and stop drilling in the Bahamas. That does it for us here at Our News. Thank you for joining us. I'm Christina Dragovich. We'll see you right back here tomorrow night. Have a beautiful evening, Bahamas.